Good evening. Patrick here from Eight Questions With, and glad it is Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Um, so to speak. Tonight we are welcoming in our special guest, Shaun Rylee. She'll be on with us in about 15 minutes or so. Glad you guys are here. Um, it's been an outstanding week for us here on Eight Questions With. We had another great interview yesterday with Angela and Yolanda, or Valencia. God, see, I was thinking about that. I was overthinking that. Valencia and uh, uh, and Angela from Daddy We're Home, along with Dennis Manlin, who came in to join the fund. So we had a great show yesterday. I was really happy with it. The girls are just absolutely gems. Hey, John, how are you, sir? Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Um, held a really fun show last night. Those two girls are so bubbly. I just, you have a feeling the sky's the limit for Valencia and Angela. They can go wherever they want to. Um, Tonight we have another guest, very similar like that, is Shaun Rylee. She is a powerhouse, and after reading about her and reading her background, getting ready for the show, wow, I'm pretty stoked that I'm pretty stoked we got her. Actually, she's really interesting, real go getter. And of course, tomorrow we have film director, producer extraordinaire Asif Akbar will be here with us. That's going to be a hell of a show as well. Uh, yes, John. Yes, I was so tickled. Yeah, those two are just they're so damn bubbly. That's a that's what makes the show worth doing. Um, I hope they do some other stuff too. I know they want to get that series up and running, but selfishly, I'm sort of hoping that they each find something to do while they're doing that. Get a couple more credits underneath their belts. Wow, everybody's coming in early. Thank you so much. Don't forget to hit the thumbs button for us. That would be give us a like. That would be awesome. Hi, Amanda. Welcome, Amanda. Glad you're here. Oh, this is going to be a fun show tonight. Those of you who can and who want to, if you could share us out, that would be most amazing. That would be awesome. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, John. It was a lot of fun talking to him. I wanted to talk to him some more, but we had talked out pretty much the one subject they had, the series. So it was a fun interview, but it wasn't really long enough. To me, I would have liked to talk about some other things with them. But I'm sure by the time we have them come back, they will have done some other things underneath their belt. I just don't see them just sitting idly and waiting for this to happen. I have a feeling they're going to go out and make something else happen. Hi, Jossie Joseph. How are you? How are you? Hey, Casey. How are you? How are you? Casey is yeah. So we're talking about the twins. The twins are a hell of a lot of fun last night. Um, so our guest will be here at 8 o'clock sharp. Um, Shaun Rylee has worked on many projects. She has done many things in her career, and we will talk about them. She has won over she has won over 25 awards in her career on various different projects, which we'll be talking about. Um, she has she has she's done she's performed all over the country. She was a ballerina for 10 years. She's got 2 degrees, one in film production and film studies, and one in psychology. I think one, actually, I think those two pretty much work together. I think you need to have a psychology degree in order to work in the film business. Um, yes, I saw that, Casey. I had a feeling that's what happened. I was wondering how they, because they were able to do that, and I was thinking, how do you raise that kind of money from brand new? I mean, that takes a lot. You would need a Yeah, you that would be really hard. I couldn't see that happening. You walk up to people and say, "Yeah, I want to fund a series, 8 episode series, and I want you to produce it. Executive produce it for me." Not less you already have some credits to your background. So yeah, I had a feeling already that they had produced that themselves. They spent their own money on it, which I really, really hope they get it back. I really hope someone will take a chance on that, and and we'll pay them to for the series. And it used to be that 8 shows in a season, that would be way too small of a sample size, but that's not necessarily true now. A lot of seasons are anywhere between 8 to 10 episodes long. I think the Peacock actually did one that was only 6 episodes long. So I mean, it was a comedy series. So it was only like 6 episodes. So it changes all the time. Yeah, that's probably what we'll be talking tomorrow with Asif Akbar, because that guy's got like 63 credits both as a producer and a film director. So he has seen it coming and going. He knows he'll know exactly what it takes to raise money for a film and then direct it. He'll be a really good guest for us to talk to tomorrow about that. That's one of the things I want to bring up. It's like it's always different for everybody, which is really interesting because I find myself asking the same question on some of these guests. But if you never notice, I'm sure you guys in the chat who've watched the show regularly, sometimes you'll hear me ask the same question, but you also notice too that the answers are always different. Always. There's no one ever sitting there going like, well, yeah, it's this way, and it's this way, then it's this way. It's always different. They get to the same end, but how they get there is always different. It always fascinates me. Huh, interesting. All right. Well, I got a minute here before Shaun gets here. You know what time it is. So somebody want to, that time again. All right. So tomorrow night, like I mentioned, we have Asif Akbar will be here tomorrow at 8 p.m. Uh, Hi, Jamie. 25,000. That's amazing. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of. It's a catch 22. It's a catch 22. You got people that are crowdsourcing their crowdfunding their projects, but what we're seeing on the other side, it used to be when people used to do that. One of the perks would be to, like if you donated $1,000, you could get killed by the horror icon, or something like that, right? And but lately it seems to be, if you donated the money, you not only are getting a IMDb credit, but you basically are paying for a part in the movie. So a trained actor could come in there, audition for a role, get the role, then have somebody like me. donate $1,500, and I'm basically buying that role that actor auditioned for. They go up to him or her, him, and they sit there and say, um, we're gonna recast that part. We're gonna give it to this guy, and then we want you to go ahead and do that. The pay to play basically is pay to play, um, and I think that really that crowdsourcing has come rather a slippery slope, in my opinion. Um, I don't think necessarily that. I mean, producers should never, ever, ever promise a speaking part to a perk. It should never happen that way. It just shouldn't. It's not really right. If you want to donate a certain amount of money and get a credit, or get your name on the big screen, or on the poster, or whatever, but I don't think it's right that they basically buy a part in the movie when they're not even an actor. Thank you. Yeah, I agree, John. Nor should they ever lose a part. They shouldn't lose a role just because somebody donated $1,500 on GoFundMe. I don't think that's right either. So yeah, see, he's smart. He's smart. But unfortunately, Jamie, there are some movies that aren't like that. And I've talked to several actors who've already told me, both on the record and off the record, that goes on. So that's, unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. That's the way it should be. Again, those who want to, or have the means to, if you care to share us out, that'll be awesome as well. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Yeah. See, that's the way it should be. But I mean, I don't know exactly if there's I don't know if there's like a group or a page, or like with the have a GoFundMe's with different projects. But I'm sure if we could find a page like that, we would see, like part of the perks would be, I mean, they don't pay you to fly out there, but if you pay $1,500 for a speaking role, chances are you're going to have the ways, the means to fly out there to do it. Uh, and I get the excitement of it. I do. Like, to me, I think it would be exciting to go out there and meet a horror icon. If they're in the movie, you know, coming out there and get killed by Tyler Maine, or get killed, or share a scene with Adrian Barbeau or Kelly Maroney. I mean, that would be exciting, but I don't want to take a role from somebody in doing so. I will make another announcement, because I was going to start today, and I'm also starting now. So on the this might. Ooh, you know what? Let me wait on that, because she's going to be here in a minute, and I want to get riled up in that. But we do have an announcement, though, to make. Uh, I should have did that earlier, but we got involved. This is a good discussion. I really appreciate that, John and Casey and Jamie. I really do. I think it's really cool. All right, so let me go back to this. So we have Asif Akbar tomorrow, 8 p.m. He'll be here. He just completed a movie called The Commando with Michael J. White and Mickey Rourke. He'll be here to talk about what we were talking about. Next Tuesday, we welcome in our good friend Steven from the House of Horrors. He'll be here and we'll be interviewing him about where he got his start in the movies, his love of movies. And our special guest is here, so let me go get her. Greetings, Miss Rylee. Greetings.
Hello, how are you?
Good, good.
Good, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are actually talking about a hot button subject. I'm sure you probably have some thoughts of. Um, not exactly not exactly the I don't know. It's an interesting way to start a show, I guess. But we don't go into it right now. I'll just mention it to you. Then when we'll circle back and come back to it, and you
Sounds
can
good.
share some of your experience. Um, Pay to play. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm
So you
familiar.
probably know about you probably know, well, speaking of, when you're in Vegas, so you probably know about the Mahal Empire. I know that they're one production company that tends to do that. They offer speaking roles to people who, to help raise money for their projects. But we were just talking about that and how that is a very, very slippery slope.
Yes, now I see the chat on my screen. I'm actually not familiar with them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they do a lot of productions out that way. Nice guys from everything I've heard. Everything I've heard, that they're very nice guys. They just they do the crowdsourcing, and they tend to raise enough money. People who spend money, they basically come out there and get parts for that should go to an actor. They go to somebody who donates the most money. uh it's not they're not the only ones by any stretch of the means. We talked to several artists who've told me that, and producers and directors have told me it happens. But we'll circle back to that because I'm interested in hearing your opinion about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Uh, so welcome to Eight Questions with. Thank you for everybody who is here. I so appreciate it. Hello, T. Betty. How are you? Al, thank you for coming out. Um, uh, so I guess the first question is, how was your day?
I'm very busy. It's been a very busy day. I decided to venture to a coffee shop that I had visited like a week ago. I came back, and it's always wonderful to discover new places, but I think this is my new spot. I was screenwriting a little bit earlier by hand because my laptop was not connecting to their Wi-Fi for some reason. So every day is an adventure.
That must be a lot of fun. I mean,
Yeah.
get out there and just get out there and write, and I enjoyed that too. I enjoyed the fact sitting at a coffee shop. I go to Barnes and Noble for me. I go to Barnes and Noble, and yes, I'm going to admit this. Don't hate, because they're expensive. But what I do is I go get a large coffee, and then I go over to the magazine rack and I grab like 4 or 5 magazines, and I go back and I drink coffee and read the magazines. Now, normally I would buy magazines, but that back in the day when they used to be like $4.99, you could afford to buy a magazine. But now magazines now are they're like the cost of a hardback book.
Yeah, some are like $12. Like who's going to pay that every month for a hard copy?
Uh, I went to get a Fangoria to take a look at a Fangoria, and I'm telling you, I thought I was going to just drop right there. I said, "Man, if they want how much for this?" It was like $14. It's like, what?
Right.
Uh, yeah, no, no. So that's why I sit there and I read the magazines there in the store, and drink coffee, because coffee only costs me $2.65, and I can have a refill for 53 cents, and it's still less than one magazine
At Barnes and Noble?
at Barnes and Noble.
That might be a spot I need to check out as well. We do have one here at the Starbucks inside.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Refills are 53. Well, they might have changed it a little bit, probably maybe 60 cents or so. But they do refills for pennies on the dollar. You pay the 2.65, and it's like, for me it was 53 cents.
Yes,
Um,
you don't drink the fancy drinks.
no, no, I just
Okay.
drink. No, no, no. I just do. I do iced coffee. I say just leave enough, just regular coffee. Leave enough room for cream. Then I go over there, and I don't know why I don't do this at home. I don't do this anywhere else but Barnes and Noble. Is what I'll do for mine is I'll get a iced coffee. I pour a little cream in it. I put a couple of equals in it. And then I put cinnamon in it and stir it up. It's the only place I ever do that to.
Because you can.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so refreshing. So thank you, Jamie, for coming in. Um, and Chadrick, I see you as well. Thank you, thank you. So I guess the first question we got to go is, Well, we have to ask it, then you can tell us the answer. But where were you born and raised primarily at?
I mean, I've been everywhere. I like to remain a little bit elusive about that, but right in the middle of the country, and I branched out to the West Coast and Southwest from there. That's the short answer.
Okay, let's go with the short answer. If we had more time, I would definitely love to hear the long answer. But since we're going to do short, we'll stay short. So, what was the one town you remember most of? I mean, that you became aware of where you were at.
Uh, from growing up or in adulthood? I think my adulthood's a little more interesting.
Okay, okay. Let's go to college then.
Okay. Well, I went to college in the upper Midwest at a university, and that's where I received my film studies degree, believe it or not. I had dreams of attending UCLA at the time, but, feasibly, financially, it was not in the cards at the time. So I eventually went there for grad school.
Yeah, I saw that. You picked up your film studies in the Midwest, and then you went to and pick up your psychology degree at UCLA then.
Yeah, it's a school that's actually like I don't even know how to explain it, but they have their campus at UCLA, and you know how like different departments name their buildings for different things for their different degrees. It's a lot of difference, but that's basically what the setup was. I went to school downtown LA first, and then they transferred me over to the UCLA campus.
Now, oh,
Satellite school. That's what I was trying to think of. Their satellite campus.
right. Yes, we have satellites over here as well. Yeah, we do have satellites. We have Western Michigan's over here, all the way over in Detroit. We have satellite branches as well. So I think that psychology and film studies is quite the interesting contrast, But also at the same time, I'm thinking, that probably helps you out a few times.
Yeah, I personally think they go hand in hand. Depending on, the fact that I'm a screenwriter as well as filmmaker and actress. And so I like to put psychology into my screenplays. That's a very heavy component of my writing.
Before you got that, you danced as a ballerina.
Yes, I
Many
did.
years.
That's why I say I've been everywhere growing up, because it took me to many different places. And I did that for 10 years, professionally trained. And, I think that kind of helps with my discipline when it comes to filmmaking as well.
I can see that. What did you really enjoy about ballerina, about your dancing?
Oh gosh, I think getting to express myself on stage. It seems a little cliche or obvious, but that was really the main thing for me. I didn't so much enjoy the training aspect of it, to be honest. I didn't enjoy, having to travel around in a car to get to my training. But I also got out of school a little bit early every day. So that was pretty nice because I had quite a drive to get to my lessons. I think it was like an hour and a half to get there. So yeah.
Uh, you were dancing all this time. I mean, do you remember what time? You remember how old you were when you wanted to expand your horizons a little bit, or
They
did
were
you?
both about at the same age. I started when I was 8 with my professional training. I was actually in dance lessons before that, but around the same time, I knew that I wanted to do acting, and I was that crazy child that was sending out letters to universities at age 8, like, "Will you please accept me into your film program?" And they were like, "Just wait till you're 18 and circle back around." So, but I always knew. And I thought, hey, why not just put myself out there when I was that young and they would know who I was.
That makes sense. And I'm sure your parents were very supportive of you. I'm sure your mom probably gave you stamps for the letters.
Yeah, I don't think they even knew I did it, honestly. I mean, if they're listening now, they're finding out for the first time.
Yeah, they're probably looking at each other going like, I thought you were using up all the stamps. I thought you were using up all the stamps. Now we know.
Nope, it was me.
Uh, so when you told your parents that that's what you really wanted to do, what was the reaction to it? I mean, were they not surprised at all, or they were like a little leery? I have a feeling they
Uh,
weren't surprised.
yeah, I don't think they were surprised, but I think they were just kind of like, see if that's what you really want to do when you get older, and if you do want to do it, just go for it. So I don't think they were surprised.
Um, So, what was your first experience with acting?
Oh gosh, I did a play in high school. I remember I first started on the lighting crew in high school because uh, back in high school times, as I'll put it, there was the theater kids or the sports kids and all of that, and so I thought there's no way these people are going to accept me into the drama department starting in I think it was 10th grade. And so I was like, I'll start out on the lighting crew. Had a blast, but at the same time, it didn't feel right in my soul to just sit in a lighting booth. And so I auditioned. I put myself out there and auditioned the next year, and I got into a play. Had a great time with that. It was a drama. And then, I just joined some plays in college as well. I was in a one act play, and then I was in a larger play as well. And kind of went from there because in college you can be anybody you want to be, especially if you're not in the same town that you grew up and went to high school in. You can go to any college and, pursue your dreams without having that prejudgment about you.
Was that really tough at high school? I mean, was there a lot of peer pressure? Were people looking down at the drama club, or were they envious that you were part of
I'm
it?
not sure the drama club was considered the coolest. At my school, is very sports centered, but they were allowed to do their own thing in the drama department, and no one would bother them. But they were very sports centric where I went to, so I was also a cheerleader as well, and played some sports, and dropped out because that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I was in volleyball at one point in time.
Yeah, that's a high risk sport to play if you're a ballerina.
Yes, I also liked to rollerblade with my brothers. They like to do, aggressive rollerblading with tricks and things. And my ballet instructor was like, "Yeah, let's stay away from that."
I'm sure your mom was sitting there and your dad were going like, "Listen, listen here, we don't want you to, yeah, just be careful about that." Ballerina lessons are not cheap. That's a very, like you said, it's a very is it safe to say that ballerina is probably the most expressive and it's the hardest dance to learn? It's the hardest
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult discipline. I don't think everybody has a natural talent for that. You can learn things, but to have that natural expression come through in ballet isn't really an easy thing. Whereas you have like jazz or modern, that's a little bit easier for people
Yeah.
to get, because ballet is very intensive. There's many different components to it that you don't find in other parts of dance.
Yeah, I always have utmost respect. I've seen several ballets, and always impressed by the hard work. I just like, I don't know how they can stand on your toe like that and spin and spin and spin. It's just absolutely bonkers to me.
Lots of
Uh,
training.
yeah, yeah. Does it hurt every time or did you build up a callus for it?
I never had ugly feet. I always have people that will I can tell once they know that I did ballet, they're like, "Oh, I bet your feet like really went through it." But I mean, I take good care of my feet, so I never really had that problem.
Is that what the first thing they say to you?
No, I mean they
When you
tell
mention their
you what you
ballet,
need
yeah.
for your shoes, and they say like it may get a little ugly, but I never had that problem.
Wow, I always think the first thing a ballerina were here, someone if you told someone that you were dancing, the first thing they want to do is not come out on your feet, but look at your legs.
I have very cute feet, so I'm proud.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, yeah, because I mean, dancing is like you said, it's it's not just something you pick up and just put down either. How many times did you have to practice a day? And did it
Well,
ever cross over when you were doing your high school activities?
oh yeah, absolutely. I did have some conflicts. I was in another activity at school as well in the winter time. But I think I trained 4 days a week for ballet, but it was for, hours at a time. I would leave school a little bit early, have to make the commute there, and then train for a few hours and then drive home and then go, wake up and go to school the next morning too. So it wasn't the easiest thing.
Um, so now you're here at high school. Now you're doing, you got a little taste of the action. Both behind the scenes.
Mhm.
That's what lighting is. You're behind the scenes, so you got a little taste of that. Then you got a little taste on the stage. So now you go to college. What kind of classes did you take at college?
Oh, that's a good question. We had a great film studies program where I went to school, and some of the instructors are still there actually, and some have retired since. But I took a lot of. Well, I went for mass communications originally, and it was extremely difficult to get into classes there. I thought, I'd work in television, radio, whatever was emerging at the time. Um, but honestly, I wasn't fulfilled in the few classes I took of that either. And then I'm like, why don't I just take acting classes? I did take acting in high school too. We fortunately had a program for that. But I jumped into acting classes and I loved those. And like I said, you can be anybody you want to in college, and so I didn't have people judging me. They didn't know anything about me. And then I took a lot of film classes. I took so many film classes that they actually made that minor degree into a bachelor's degree, just so I
Wow.
could graduate with one.
What did you like best about what are the three things you liked the best about your education, and what's three things that you maybe either didn't like or you would like to have done over with?
Um, I liked my instructors the best, my professors, excuse me. I think I had wonderful professors that were very supportive of what I wanted to do and my talents, and they still, kind of follow what I do. And we speak every once in a while via email. And like the variety of film classes that we had, we studied the very beginning of film from like way back in the day, silent films, like even the very first cameras, we studied that. And then we studied decade by decade all the way up to current film. And I really liked learning more about classic Hollywood and, where things started, because I think it's important to have that foundation. And the third thing that I really liked, I guess the fact that I could also take classes in the theater department for acting in addition to my film, and they didn't really conflict. The departments ended up combining eventually. Something I didn't like about my education was, even though I was very, very happy with my program, I still wish that I had went to UCLA and, got that, on-camera experience right away, right in the heart of Hollywood. But, I mean, you get to where you need to be eventually.
So you did mostly stage work at your university.
Yeah, and I also worked for the television station. I was a news anchor, and so I got to film myself out in the field because it was a very quick turnaround for the news. So I would film myself and then go back in the studio, have to do some editing, and also do the live broadcast. So I did a little bit of everything for the TV station as well.
Um, how did you like doing that? I mean, was that something you were doing when you were doing because mass communications, that's basically what electronic journalism, right?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people from the mass communications department ended up working for the television station. If I remember at the time, there were some that did like behind the scenes work. I also learned how to run a teleprompter there, which was a great skill because when you're learning how to do cold reads for acting, for example, they now have teleprompter programs that you can use to go from the cold read into memorizing lines. So that's a great tool now, but yeah, I mean, I really liked doing it. I like doing live things, but they also terrify me, especially when it comes to performing on stage in the theater. Absolutely terrifying.
I was going to ask you, what was your first experience like on a stage?
Uh,
Were you in front of your peers, or were you in front of an audience?
I was in front of a full audience. I was super nervous because my scene actually took place on the edge of a stage, literally sitting on the front edge of the stage. And my part of my family happened to be at my first performance, and they were right in front of me.
Oh
So,
wow!
not intimidating at all.
Oh, was it intimidating, or did you take
Yeah.
comfort that they were there? Oh,
No, it
okay.
was very intimidating. I remember like palms sweating and because I was very close to the audience, whereas, when you're on stage, you're not that close and you can't really see anybody, but everybody was right in front of me. And I ended up doing some black box stage performances where you're literally in that square black room and everybody's sitting on all four sides. You're very aware of people's eyes on you. So, I think that first experience helped me become a little bit more comfortable.
I was gonna say, didn't your dance, because when you're dancing, you don't see the audience, do you?
It really depends. Sometimes, yeah. I mean, we had kind of some immersive performances where we'd have to be in the aisles, right next to people. But I think dancing is a different thing. I don't think people judge you when you're a ballerina because a lot of people can't do that. Whereas acting, everybody likes to think, oh, I would be a great actor, and they're constantly judging because you're getting that media now, in your home, especially with streaming. But you're constantly surrounded by that media where you're like, oh yeah, I could do that.
No, no, I can tell you right now, I couldn't do that.
No.
Nope, nope, nope. I'll leave it up to professionals.
The
Uh,
professionals.
what was the title of the first play that you did? I mean, do you remember the title of it?
I remember I did lights for a play called Voices from the High School, and the first one I was in that front of the stage experience was called The Baseball Show. I don't
Okay.
know who's familiar with that, but I forget who the author of that play is. I had never heard of it prior, but it was a very, very fun play.
How many plays did you get to do before you graduated? And
High
like,
school, I think I performed in two, and then college, I was in about two or three. And then also in college, I got into making films right away. So
okay, what did you like about that part about making films? What were some of the things that you didn't know about making films that you discovered? Did you have
well,
any idea? Did you have any idea how it worked, or did you go in completely green?
no, I think my education actually helped me quite a bit. And I also was that weird child that, studied things from the internet and how to make films. I was more interested in the behind the scenes than the actual product for a point in time. But the first film that I made in college, I was an actress in, and I was a zombie, believe it or not, in a horror film. And we got to develop our zombie characters. We didn't have that stereotypical, move fast, move slow, whichever one. We got to develop it. And I remember I made some acting choices that the directors really liked, and then everybody else started doing the same thing. So we did end up kind of looking like a typical zombie crew with whatever I did, but I didn't walk with my hands out. I walked like a normal person because to me that seemed a little more terrifying.
Yeah, yeah. No, no fast zombies here. I'm a slow zombie guy myself.
Okay.
A slow zombie guy terrifies me. A fast one, nah, not so much. Uh, uh, so how did you like your first short film? I mean, where did you take it to? Did you get to cast it? Did you shoot it, or did you get a DP, or did you? I mean,
I just auditioned for that film. I was
oh, okay,
just an
okay,
actress in that one. And I remember the filmmakers of that film, they took it to some film festivals, but they were also making another film right after that. And that one they took to a lot more. And that film was called The Blue Solution, the follow-up film. And they did really well at festivals with that film back in the day. But the one I did was called The Night of the Living Beer.
okay.
Very college centric.
So after you graduated college, where did you go?
I decided I was going to LA. So I made the move, and I didn't honestly think acting was a feasible career when I went to LA because times were a little bit different. This was circa 2003. I want to say the first time I went out there. I went out there a couple times. And I ended up working first for a private investment firm, completely unrelated and something I'm not interested in at all. But I was earning a paycheck and having something to put on my resume to get another job. And then I ended up working for an infomercial company, like a really big infomercial company where you've seen their commercials late night on TV. And I loved that company. I never thought I would get into infomercials, but I had a great time and they treated us really well. And I eventually got into casting at that company as well.
Do they even still do those these days?
Oh
I don't,
yeah,
I don't have a TV, so I don't do TV. But I was wondering, I wonder if they still do infomercials.
they do. The
Oh,
company is still around.
how long were you with the company?
Just a couple years. I remember I left because of a family emergency that first time, but I was with them for a couple years and, got to move up a little bit. I started out as a receptionist, kind of taking in everything, getting to meet, famous clients that would come in. And then I eventually moved to doing a little bit of casting for some of their fitness programs. And then I did some live things as well. They have a live art showcase that still is airing on TV, I guess. I don't have live television myself, but It's still running, and I had a great time doing the live art showcase too, getting to sell art pieces on the air.
Okay. Okay. Now, what did you? While you're still there, did you start thinking about auditioning?
A little bit. Sorry for the authentic Las Vegas sirens here. Um, a little bit, but honestly, like I said, it didn't seem feasible at the time. It seemed like nepotism was very much the way to get in at that time, and there weren't as many opportunities as there are now for actors. Social media was just kind of MySpace was the thing back then. So music was big. I ended up getting into booking tours for bands back then while I was working at that investment firm. And that's pretty much what I spent my time doing. I can say it now because it's been a while, but I'd be at work at my desk, like booking bands and, kind of just networking. I think that gave me a good networking foundation in order to get the confidence later to audition.
How did you like working as a booker at the booking agent?
It was a great time. I loved it, but I had very long days because I would have to wake up at 6 a.m. to get ready and then commute across LA to my job. And then after my job, I would commute home, quick eat something, and then I'd go check out the bands that I booked if they were booked locally. And so it was, late night and then sleep a few hours, get up and do it again. So it was very, very
draining. It's very, very draining, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So after you got out, but you went out there to LA thinking that you were going to become an actress, did you not?
Yeah, I thought I would get into film eventually, but I felt like I kind of had to put in my time doing other things and, being comfortable in LA. I think that's one thing a lot of people forget about the process when they move there is you have to feel comfortable there. And a lot of people will leave very quickly, 6 months or a year, because it's a very different lifestyle in Los Angeles. And, being comfortable in that city and, not getting super close to people, you have to be able to, withstand that in order to make it in the industry or just LA in general.
So when did you get your degree in psychology first, or did you start?
No, actually, when the economy was kind of tanking a little bit, I decided, I needed something to fall back on. That was my thinking at the time. And so I ended up going to school full time at the same time I was working full time. So I took a lot of remote classes for my satellite school, or I would put in a full work day and then take night classes. So I was constantly, putting in work somewhere and not having that time really to focus so much on acting. But, psychology eventually helped me with that.
So after you got your degree and I guess you didn't try to, I guess you waited till after the Great Recession, right? Just to get your feet wet.
Yeah, that's when I was getting my degree during the recession.
Well, after the recession, is that when you decided that you were ready, that you were?
Yeah, I wasn't finding as many opportunities in psychology as I thought I would. You think like you can get a psychology job anywhere, and that's not really the truth. A lot of communities will not put money into that kind of program, which is really sad. But I was finding also when I did briefly work in the field, I was coming home feeling drained myself. I was taking everybody's problems home with me, if you will. And so it was very hard to like enjoy a quality of life knowing you wanted to do something else, but having to go make the money at your day job, but it was kind of a field that just really like brought you down, if you will. And so I kind of realized it wasn't for me, but I wanted to utilize what I had learned since I put all that money into my education, and then I turned that into screenwriting eventually.
Yeah, it's like psychiatry and more. I guess more I think they said that psychiatrists have the highest suicide rate in the medical industry. And
I would believe that. And honestly, they don't usually allow you to work 40 hours a week, or so they say, because of that burnout. It's so easily to get burnt out in that field. And, like I said, to take everybody's problems home with you, it just kind of zaps your energy and a little bit of your soul, honestly.
Yeah, I could see that. I definitely, I have seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. Okay, so now you decided that, hey, now I'm ready. I'm ready to do this for myself. So,
Mm-hmm.
what's our first step? What's your first step as far as getting in front
Well,
of a camera.
I took a step that a lot of people in LA will be like, don't ever do this. Don't ever, ever go this route. But it worked out well for me. I decided at the request of my roommate at the time to go sign up for a background acting agency, right? You
Right.
go sign up, they choose you by your picture essentially and cast you in something in the background. And I was like, why not make money doing that and getting that on camera or not on camera experience per se, but getting to see how a set works. And to me, that was more important than sitting at home constantly auditioning. If I didn't know how a set worked in Hollywood, why would I decide to pursue acting? That didn't make
Right.
sense to me if I never set foot on a set. So I decided to go sign up. And then as I was walking out of the office, I got a phone call and they said, "Hey, are you still in the vicinity?" And I was like, "Yeah, I literally just walked out the door. I'm on the sidewalk." And they're like, "Come back in. We have to talk to you." And I walked back in and they said, "The casting director for Mad Men is here and wants to see you." So they had like a two-way mirror when you sign up at that casting agency. And, as you're filling out your paperwork and stuff, there's people behind there. And that day it just happened to be a big casting director. And, I got to audition for Mad Men. So, it worked out well for me. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. How was that experience like?
Working.
That was an interesting show.
Yeah, honestly, I had never seen it at that point. I was aware of what it was, and I very much love past decades. And working on that show was a well-oiled machine. I came in later on, like the second to last season, and they had already had everything down. They worked with the same crew consistently, obviously the same cast, but they just come back every season, do their work very efficiently, and it was an amazing experience, probably my best experience on a set easily.
I will say this. I think there's two ways. I think to break in. I think one. I mean, you're not the first one who's mentioned about the background work.
Yeah.
People who do background work. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's great, actually. I think you're right. You go out there and you see how a set works. I mean, I rather do something like that. I'd rather push my career back, 3 to 6 months to learn how to work a set, rather just to come up there and they say, okay, go ahead and stand on your mark there, and you go like, what's a mark? You know,
Well,
you know.
honestly, I did some stand-in work as well. So it was like I was cast on that, but it hadn't started yet. We did fittings for wardrobe and things, and they chopped off all my hair at the time for that show. But I also got a stand-in gig as well as a body double gig. So I got to stand in and double for Marissa Tomei, which is huge. But basically, I hadn't been in the union yet since I was just starting out, and a friend had sent me like a breakdown saying, "Hey, they're looking for a double for Marissa. They can't seem to find one in the union that fits all of her size specs. And I think that you may be a fit." And I looked and I was like, "Yeah, I fit everything except her shoe size." So I went and had like submitted on a whim. I'm like, "I'm not in the union, but if you need somebody, I'm here." And they were like, "Do you have stand-in experience?" I was like, "Yeah." So I went and worked on a short film for a few weeks doing that. Had a blast on that set as well, and got to do some very cool things in place of Marissa.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say. The other best thing to do besides the background or the extra work, which is really good, is try to work short films. You know,
Yes, I think a lot of people are discovering that short films are a great way to get experience on sets as well, but they do work very differently than working on larger sets. I will
oh,
say
cool.
that. Mhm.
Yeah, for one thing, on larger sets, you tend to get paid.
Yeah,
Uh,
right. That's the first thing.
yeah, short films are there's so many adventures I've heard from about people working on short films, but I'm a huge advocate of it. I'm a big short film guy. I think it's great not only for actors to cut their teeth, but for film directors and screenwriters. You can, you know,
Yes, yes.
I want to circle back to your writing because I've neglected that. So let me circle back to that and mention and ask you, when did you start writing? In period, did you keep a journal when you were growing up, or is this something you started in high school, or?
There was a website called Live Journal when I was in my 20s, and I was constantly on there every single day making entries. And but going back even a little bit further than that into high school, I had English teachers that were like, "You're a great writer. You need to do something in the writing field. You need to do something in the writing field," you know? And I remember going into college, my film professor said the same thing, like, "You're a great writer. Why don't you write screenplays?" And it's like, you know, I was confident in my writing skills at the time, but I didn't honestly really want to do that. I wasn't the type of person to want to sit behind a computer and just write. And I still honestly don't like sitting at a computer and writing, but it is a skill that I have and that I think I'm very good at. So I started writing a little bit based on some dreams that I had. I had a horror dream. A horror centric dream. I won't say a nightmare because I was there and I was in it and very lucid. And so I remember I woke up. I was probably like in high school when I dreamt this, and I like sat and like, you know, typed up on my little word program what I had experienced in that horror dream. I still think it's a great idea. I have not written down into fruition in screenplay form, but you know what I knew at the time, I wrote out what I thought was screenplay form, and then I kind of, it was coming out of the psychology career that I decided, you know, I need something to do that's related to the field that I can do from a distance because I was not living in LA at the time. And the closest thing that I could get to was screenwriting because you can do that from anywhere. And so I was like, you know, why don't I take my ideas that I have and, you know, experiences I've had and turn those into screenplays. And I had started some at several points in time, but I never really fleshed them out because I was like, oh, I'll either, you know, go into acting and eventually directing, and then maybe somebody else can write the screenplay is what I thought. But now I'm very attached to my screenwriting and I don't want other people to direct some of my projects. So
Do you have a writer's box?
a writer's box?
Uh-huh.
What is that?
A writer's box is where you write whatever you're writing. And if let's say you're writing a screenplay and it's not finished, or you just hit a wall with it, you just put a clip on it and go and put it in a box. And then
I do in you know, computerized form. I have different folders. I think I have like 12 of them on my second monitor over here that have been started. Yes, and I actually have them numbered in the order that I want to complete them too.
Okay, so like every once in a while, if you're sitting there and you're, you know, maybe there's nothing on TV, or you know, you're not filming anything right now, you can just go grab one and, you know, chew it on it some more, you know.
Yeah, and you know, there are some writers that like to write every day because, you know, honestly, it is a discipline and you do need to continually get better. But I used to do that and I would set like a timer for like an hour and I would sit and write. But honestly, I'm not the type of writer that can be forced to write in that kind of circumstance when, you know, when a screenplay is first starting. Now, I'm not talking about like in a writer's room or something like that. But, you know, when I'm at home, I need to be inspired in order to write it. And
Yeah.
there are many days in the last, like, you know, few months where I'm like, oh, I should finish A, B, and C, but I'm also editing a film at the moment. And so I know that's the priority. And then if I get the inspiration like I did today at the coffee shop, then I'll, you know, I'll break out one of the screenplays.
Is it safe to say you're not a is it safe to say you're not a natural writer? I mean, where it just, you can sit down and it flows out of you?
Oh,
Or
I
like you?
am. I
Oh,
am, but like I said, I don't like sitting at a computer. You know, I just don't like sitting there and doing it because I had a job for the last 4 years sitting at a computer. That was my job, was I was teaching children in China how to speak English. You know, so I was at the computer all the time. So last thing I want to do for, you know, one of my passions is to sit back at the computer. I need to seek inspiration elsewhere and then come back when I feel, you know, inspired to actually do it.
um, oh yeah, you just mentioned that. I noticed that too. You were in China for 4 years.
Well, I was here actually. I worked remotely, and you know, they had different government regulations that, you know, took all Americans away from that job just a few months ago. But you know, I loved doing that job. I happened upon it by accident when I was a flight attendant because I've had many different careers as I'm discovering as they all come out.
But think about all the. Do you think of all the experience that you've gathered? I mean, you're basically, your life's a movie, Shaun. I mean, you
Of
know,
course, that's why
yeah.
I take experiences from my life and turn them into movies.
Uh,
It very much is.
and you're fluent in 4 languages and
I wouldn't say fluent
Passable?
in all of them. I have studied different languages. I am mostly fluent in French. I don't practice it every day, so some things don't come to me. But, I studied French for a very long time, starting when I was in ballet. Our lessons were in French, believe it or not. So when I was 8, I had to start learning some French very quickly. And then, I took proper lessons in middle school, high school, and then a little bit in college. I also took Spanish, and then I branched out into learning Italian on my own because I moved to Rome for a short period of time. And then I also learned a little bit of Portuguese, though that escapes me a little bit. But I had dated somebody at a point in time, and his family all spoke Portuguese and not English. So, I had to learn a little bit because of that.
So your screenwriting, you start writing, you do right now. So you got like 12 different plays you're working on, 12 different screenplays you're working on.
At least.
Now, what do you? I mean, you mentioned you draw from your own life. Is all of them drawn from your own life, or is there anything that you created, like that's outside you?
Most of them come from my actual life, or it's embellished based on events. You take the event and kind of turn it and make it cinematic. But I do have a couple projects right now that are not based on anything that I've experienced, thank goodness. But one of them is a period piece that takes place a couple decades ago. And I'm in the writing stages, but it's kind of a comedy, and that's not usually a genre that I tend to lean toward, but it's a good challenge for myself as a writer to branch out into different genres and different experiences that I have not had and create those characters. It's just creating those characters is not, I prefer to take it from my own life and base things on people that I have known.
Yeah, comedy is starting to come rather than an endangered species, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting line. There's a lot of cliches in comedy, and that's another thing that I don't do is I don't write in cliche form. And I know that makes some people mad when they read my screenplays and they want to produce them, and they're like, "But you have to do it this way. It has to be this structure." But why? I mean, art is subjective. It's not for everybody. Not everybody's screenplay will be for everybody. But it's my style. I don't like to write in cliches. I don't like to write on the nose, and I don't think it should be that way, honestly.
No, and I just think that I mentioned about the endangered species. I'm thinking about like some of the more sharper minds we have, like stand-up comedians or whatnot. We're slowly losing them because they're not able to really express themselves anymore.
Sure.
I think it'll roll over into film and TV as well. Pretty soon, it's gonna be all pretty much just vanilla.
Yeah, a lot of comedians are returning to stand up, I've noticed, because that is a way that they can express themselves how they choose to. But Hollywood's funny. It has its formula that works, but at the same time you also see people like, does Hollywood have any new ideas? There are new ideas out there, but people don't like change as well, and that can trickle from the top down. Maybe they're not used to taking risks on something that will be completely different and not knowing how an audience will react to it too. There's a lot to it.
It's got to be sort of hard as a comedian to even as a writer who's writing a comedy, you got to be feeling like you're writing on eggshells in a little bit, because it's like, what can you write and what can you say without people jumping all over you?
Well, honestly, yeah. I mean, I read screenplays for a few big festivals, on the other side of things before I was entering them. And there's some things out there where even I would be like, I don't think that would ever get made in a million years because of how people would write their comedy. There's a lot of vulgarity that I thought was unnecessary because it didn't move the story forward. And that's something that writers forget too, is if you're writing a narrative, it has to move the story forward in order to be an essential part of the script. And people forget that all the time. Like, why can't I write just what I want to write? But it has to have a purpose, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, gratuitous language or that sort of thing. Yeah, it might get you a laugh or two, but if it's going to stall out the story in the long run, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So after Mad Men, so that was your first job, right? Mad Men and you worked on the show for 2 years. Now, did that open some doors afterwards for you after the show ended?
Yeah, actually, during the show, it did. I was working regularly on a few different shows. There was a show on Showtime that was just emerging at the time called Masters of Sex with Lizzie Kaplan and Michael Sheen. And I was a part of the pilot of that show. And then from the pilot, they brought me back. They ended up, cutting down my role quite a bit throughout the episodes because it turned out that on screen I looked a lot like Lizzie Kaplan. I had dark hair at the time. It was short like hers at the time. And, I fit the period look, which is why I was consistently cast on period centric pieces. But, when you look like the lead actress on camera, that's not a good thing. Right. So I ended up, getting cut down shorter and shorter, but I got solid work on that set. Also an amazing run set. So I worked on that show. And then I also worked on Community at the same time. And it was kind of like some days, they were battling out my schedule, which is a great problem to have. But we need her for this episode because her character's in this, or for continuity, or whatever my purpose was in the episode from one to the next. It was a great problem to have for me, but, it can create a little bit of scheduling conflicts, but it ended up working out really well.
How did you like working on the set of Community?
Oh, that wasn't even like a job. Honestly, it was just hanging out with great people, getting to laugh a lot. It was a great time. I loved that set.
Do you feel like your strength, what are your strengths is improvise? I mean, can you improvise pretty good?
I can. I would not say I enjoy improvising a lot, honestly. It terrifies me because it's almost like being a comedian, right? Where you have to kind of react to your environment think on your feet very quickly. I can do it. I think I'm good at it, but at the same time, I don't really enjoy it, honestly. So if a director will tell you throw out something here, a line, that terrifies me because I'm overthinking because, I'm also a screenwriter. So I'm like, how does that fit into this? Right. So I have that kind of analytical mind that maybe some actors don't have because they can act, and they don't do screenwriting or they don't direct. And so it's probably just a little bit different for me and a little bit intimidating. I can do it. I just don't like to do it.
So improvise for you is more, it's a little bit too structured. I mean, you overthink it a little bit.
Yes, definitely. That's definitely a personal problem.
Oh no, it's a quirk. I don't want to say it's a problem. It's just there's some people that can, someone said, okay, you're in a cab right now, and it's like, what, because that's like, I'm not in a cab. You're not really thinking like that. It takes a minute to jumpstart it.
Yeah, and they include a lot of improvisation, like in preparing for a role, you do improvise a lot, or in acting classes, you have to improvise a lot. That's a whole different environment than when you're on a set and suddenly, tasked with hey, say something funny here. It's like you're really put on the spot, what if what I say does not fit or it's not what they were imagining? You're constantly overthinking those things. At least I am. And by the way, I am reading the chat, so people that are typing, keep typing because I am reading it at the same time.
Who's been the funniest guy that you worked with? Let's go with who's the funniest guy you worked with?
Yes. Okay, so I would say obviously the cast of Community, hysterical. Joel McHale is super funny. Ken Jeong was very funny, and also Kevin Hart. I think I worked on 3 Kevin Hart projects, 2 films, and also Real Husbands of Hollywood. And he can very much improvise on the spot. He's very quick-minded.
Very fast.
Yes.
Yeah, Joel McRae too. As far as best written project that you've ever been on.
Best written? Oh
best
gosh.
Written. Would it be Mad Men maybe?
Yeah, I would have to say Mad Men, for sure. I mean, that show was very concise. They knew what they were doing. And they even, outside of just the writing itself, they built that set in a way that you felt like you were there. You could open a file cabinet and pull out a piece of paper, and it was dated by the prop crew, who was incredible on that set. They would date it the exact date of that episode where it was taking place. Say it was January 6th, 1965 or something. You pull out a file, that's exactly what it's dated to the day. Every single day they were changing out the props to make it feel like you were actually there. So everything about that set is probably the greatest experience that you could ever have.
So after you did the Mad Men and you did Community and whatnot, what was the first role that you that you had an audition for, and it was substantial, that you actually felt like, I'm here as an actress?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. I've been on so many different things. Um, oh, gosh, it's hard to choose. I know I had some parts on Scandal. I was in a few episodes of Scandal. I watched one of the episodes, but I never got to watch another one. But I remember like I felt like I was a part of the cast the days that I was there. As well as Parks and Rec. I think I was scaled back on one episode on that, but another one I remember I got to shout in Amy Poehler's face. And I remember I was very intimidated because she's such a nice woman that I was like, why, I have to be in her face, like screaming these things at her character. And I never watched that episode, but people tell me it's still out there. So maybe someday I'll catch up on some things, but those are two early ones that come to mind.
Do you ever watch yourself on the screen?
Yeah, it used to be a very weird experience for me, especially when Mad Men first came out, or watching some of the upfronts for Masters of Sex, especially for that one. But at the same time, those were period pieces, so it almost wasn't like how I viewed myself. But I became a little bit more comfortable. I kept working, so I lost track of things that I was in. When I was like, featured from background, like when I first started doing that, like I was curious to see what I looked like on screen at that stage. And then after that, I just kind of stopped. But I did have a recent experience with my short film, Question Everything, got to debut in LA at the movie theater in this past December. And so I got to see myself on the big screen. And literally that film is just myself and my co-star. So, I couldn't avoid seeing myself, but it was a very cool experience and almost like an out of body experience. It's like, it wasn't really you were there, but it's like you're just watching a movie unfolds. You're not as critical of yourself after a while.
Yeah, speaking of that, you have your work has been very critically acclaimed. You've won over 25 different awards for your work.
I've won more than IMDb says, a lot more. And the reason that it doesn't say very many is a lot of film festivals are very behind on posting awards. And they're the ones that post them. You don't post them yourself. I posted up a few like in trivia sections of films, but I think Question Everything won like 76, I believe, just itself. And then I have, like one screenplay has won like 12, I think. One has won 16. A couple shorts have won. There's like all kinds of awards out there, but after a while, it's just like, you're just super honored that people even like take to your work. And that's really the important thing, is like, it's in front of people's eyes, whether it's the screenplay or a finished film itself. It's in front of people's eyes, and it becomes a whole different thing than, when you're just creating it.
Has winning these awards, has that opened doors for you as well?
Yeah, it's very hard as a female filmmaker in general. In this industry, it's still, even after all of these pushes for change, it's still very difficult. Not a whole lot has changed, honestly. And people wouldn't take me seriously because I was a female. Like, from my screenplay, they'd be like, "Oh, I'll buy it from you," and then they'll change it. I'm not in the business right now of selling screenplays. I'll get to that point, but there's a few that I want to make myself. And so I'm like, indie filmmaking is very much up my alley. It's very difficult part of filmmaking, but I enjoy doing that because I have more control. Now I can, form my team on my projects and find the people that I want to work with, which is great. But a lot of times, yeah, they still don't take you seriously, despite any acclaim or recognition or your networking, until they actually get to speak to you. And then it's a whole different thing. But getting in front of people is the challenge.
Is it safe to say the hardest part about making any film, be it short or featured, is making the pitch?
I think I'm good at pitches. I think it's getting the funding, finding the people that have the money is definitely the most difficult part. And it's the longest part, honestly. And again, being a female does unfortunately play into that as well. You get all kinds of very inappropriate proposals when it comes to that stage. And so I had to bring on males onto my team that are very capable of networking with people that they know and branching out as well. And they're taken more seriously. They are very good at what they do. I will not take that away from my team ever. That's why I brought them on board. But at the same time, it gets you feel very discouraged after a while. And so I'm like, let me put that stress on them because that is what they do and they're good at it. And I will worry about what I need to worry about.
I can see that. I mean, here you go. You won some really good awards. You would think that that would establish your credibility without a calling card, and then you still got people sitting over there like doubting you.
Yeah,
yeah, that's got to be a little discouraged. But I guess, but knowing you as we do, I think all it means is you just roll up your sleeves and go back to work.
Yeah, I mean, you rely more on your abilities than what other people think. You know what I mean? They're not sitting with you every day. You're sitting with yourself, and you know your capabilities, and you just need to be confident in that because the only people that succeed are the people that keep going. You can't let it get you down. It does unfortunately discourage a lot of female filmmakers because you have to go through a lot of different things, and just like people of color or BIPOC people in general, you have to go through different things that the majority of the industry does not need to go through. And it's just the people that are able to stick it out are the ones that will make it eventually.
This thought here. I have a feeling I know who this is. This is our good friend Ikeem right here. He just mentioned he definitely finds it weird watching myself on screen, but I'll get used to it. Yeah, I'm sure that is. I'm sure, actually, that's probably one of the weirdest things I would think in the business is the first time you see yourself, on the screen, whether it be on a play or a TV production or whatnot, to go back and watch you, I mean, hell, I had that weird sensation when I watched this back, I watched
Yes.
this back. Yeah, because because I'm my worst critic. I'm my harshest critic. I go back and I watch it and I go like, wow, that was a really bad question, or you didn't bring up correctly, or you didn't give them a chance to answer it, or you talked too much. So yeah, I get that. Now, how did you? Now things are going really well, but you said you started a career as a flight attendant. Now, was this after you were doing this work, or was this something you were balancing? Were you balancing your career as a flight attendant while you were still doing these projects?
As a flight attendant, I was living away from LA. I was never based in LA as a flight attendant. I was based in San Francisco, Phoenix, Minneapolis. And honestly, being a flight attendant gave me experiences that I wrote about. I have a feature screenplay written about when I was a flight attendant and something that I experienced actually here in Las Vegas. But I wasn't doing both acting and flight attending. I was more doing screenwriting and flight attending at the same time.
I'm going to go ahead and I was going to go ahead and have you guys, if you guys want to ask any questions of our guest, Shaun Rylee, start dropping them in the chat. We don't have Shaun for very much longer. She has a meeting she has to attend, but I'd like to give you guys a chance to drop some questions in so she could answer them.
Yeah, I got a good 15 minutes or so. But yeah, I do have a film meeting always. There's always a film meeting.
How do you like Vegas?
I love Vegas. It was honestly kind of a second home for me. I was here, multiple times a year. And I didn't actually think I would ever live here, but here I am. I've lived here for a year now and I love it here. I'm away from the strip, but if I want to go to the strip, I can go, it's like 20 minutes door to door. It's very, very cool. Can go to the mountains, go hiking. A lot of things
and you've been to Nightmare Toys a few times.
I have been to Nightmare Toys. I love that place. I know you had them on the show recently.
See, now you can walk inside the store and see Christy there and say, you and I have something in common. We both were on 8 Questions With.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen Christy in there, honestly.
Oh, really? Okay. I think she's, I don't know her schedule. I know she's a relentless promoter. What's it like working in Vegas? I mean, is there because I interviewed a married couple last week, and they love Vegas. They said they can both audition both in Vegas and LA. Is that something you do as well? Do you do if you do auditions, self tape? Do you send them to LA or do you work within the Vegas area?
I do both. There's a lot of commercial work here. The casinos are always filming commercials. Like every single month, they're filming a new one, but it runs for 9 months at a time. So I audition for those. I auditioned for even some short films, paying short films,
Yes.
and I have done some LA auditions, but I have so much going on with my own projects at the moment that I haven't been doing a whole lot of branching out from Las Vegas. But if an opportunity comes up, I definitely would take it. It's just I'm so busy doing so many different things for my feature film, and then a couple short projects, and then screenwriting. It's like never ending. So I haven't been focusing so much on acting, but I've been getting a lot of opportunities lately. So they kind of
Isn't
have
it always
found
things
me.
like that? It's like when you don't try, they come to you.
Yeah, pretty
You
much.
know, it's like you just take your eyes off. I'm gonna go here to this coffee shop and do screenwriting. And then they call, your agent calls you and says, "Oh, by the way, we got you. You're gonna go out, audition here for this movie here or that movie there." It's got to be sort of satisfying when that happens. Like that your name's out there, they're thinking about you, and they're calling you.
hmm Yeah, and I've worked with I'm working on building up my network here in Las Vegas. It's a very different industry here. But I'm working on networking a little bit, and I just filmed a short film 2 weeks ago outside of Caesar's Palace and inside Caesar's Palace. But the director is from Toronto, and just in the area, like let's make a film. And so I was able to meet some local filmmakers that worked on that film as well. And we're working on future projects together, and you kind of just expand your network. Here we have a lot of people moving here from LA, but they don't understand that the industry is very different here. I will say a lot of agents do frown upon you not living in LA or Atlanta or New York. If you live in Las Vegas, even though it's only a 45-minute flight to LA, they're like, "Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I want to take on a client that lives there." And it's like, why? Why not? I mean, especially now that we're doing a lot of things online, a lot of self tapes.
Yeah, I think the self takes that right out of the equation. I think. I
You
mean,
would think so, yeah. But
yeah.
I mean, they're used to how they do things too. And like I said, people don't always like change. So maybe it will change a little bit.
Well, I tell you what, we'll have to catch up with you once it does. I mean, once you hopefully the project you're working on will come to fruition, and we'll catch you down further down the line.
Yeah, it's been in the works for a few years, unfortunately pandemic timing and the kind of, we've had to reformulate a few things and go different routes, but we're getting back on track. So fingers crossed this year we can get to filming finally
I hope
the
so
one
too.
feature.
It's amazing. Actually, Shaun, it's so amazing. It's like I just could not believe how many people were still creating during the pandemic. Crazy. I thought everything was shut down. Oh, not by half. People were doing everything. I was like, how did you get away with that? Because it's like I can't imagine you running down the street filming something, during the height of the pandemic, without a mask on or anything else and social distancing. But people were, yeah, they're crazy.
I film in the desert. That's what I did. I
Yeah,
filmed in the desert because nobody's gonna bother you out there.
yeah, except for the vultures
Yeah, or the truckers driving by, pretty much.
on their way to Ottawa now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I'd like to thank you very much for coming in and talking to us. I'd like to thank our chat for hanging out with us and talking with us. I'm going to let you go just a little early so you can get any last minute preparations you need for your meeting. And it was a delight to meet you. And I enjoyed this very much.
Thank you
Uh,
so much for having me. I was delighted when you reached out to me, so I appreciate it.
yeah, yeah, I'm glad I did actually. When I was reading about your background, I'm like, man, I said that right before you came on. I said I got a winner here. I got somebody who is totally fascinating. So I was right about that.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, everyone in the chat. I've seen everything that you're posting, and you're welcome.
Oh, all right, kids, that's gonna wrap it up for us. Thank you all for coming up, and we'll see you tomorrow, 8 o'clock. For actually, you probably want to pay attention to this one. Producer and film director Asif Akbar, who's got over 63 projects that he has done. He's directed 21 films, and he's produced 42. And his newest film, The Commando, is out now, starring Mickey Rourke and Michael J. White, also known as Spawn. Okay. But I'm going to be asking him a lot of questions. So if you want to come back in and hang out, I hopefully you. If not, I'll send you the show after we're done.
I believe my co-producer knows Michael White.
Ah, nice.
I've heard that name. Yes. And yes, I own 2 cats, by the way, to answer the chat.
Oh, do you? Oh, okay.
2 rescue Persians, to be exact.
Oh, yeah, I have a cheetah.
I need to see this.
He was here. I'll post a picture to you.
Okay.
I'll post a picture to you. You can see Paladin the cheetah.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Shaun, and we will talk at you. We'll talk at you soon, huh?
Yes, and I know my links have been posted in the chat, so please follow me. I will follow back, and check out my IMDb because it really helps me in my career.
We will be putting all that into information in the description box down below. As soon as the show's over with, I'll go there and flesh it all out and put all your links out there and post it.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Well, I'll see you tomorrow night. If you can stay right where you're at just for 1 minute, Shaun, I promise, just 1 minute. All right, folks. Have a good night. Peace.